Gatekeeper, open the portals between the gods and mortals. Power freely flows as our magic grows.
To the old ones of my blood, grandmothers and grandfathers, through your boundless perseverance and your never-ending love, I now live upon the earth. To the ancient ones of hearth, whose ways inspire my ways, through the beauty of your art and the example of your history, I now walk upon this path. To my heroes, both shared with many and known to me alone, through your great inspiring deeds and your kindness shown to me, I now know a better world. Ancestors, accept my offering.
Ancestors, accept our offering.
Hello, I'm Arin.
And I'm Jonathan.
And you're listening to Part the Mist,
a podcast by a pair of ADF druids here in Portland, Oregon.
So our invocation today was a little bit different. Rather than doing a deity, we decided to go with the ancestors, which, if you recall from our previous episodes, are one of the three kindreds that we honor in our core order of ritual. Ancestors, as we mentioned before, can be home, hearth, or blood. I don't know. I feel like the invocation really did a pretty good, cohesive job of bringing all that together.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Yes. This is the time we're just going to go ahead and talk about all kinds of stuff. So
What is today's episode about?
Oh, that's good. Well, this episode is an overview of the core order of ritual which ADF follows for doing our rituals. This
is actually a part one. We're probably going to be dividing this into 2 episodes.
Yeah, because there's quite a bit. It's not just simply, like I said, simple. It's actually more than just a overview. It's actually going into specific details of how the ancients did it, how we do it today, and why we do it. You know, why it's important and stuff like that. So it's a lot of details.
And to clarify going in, like when we say ancients, that's not just the Celts. Again, we're taking a lot of our core order ritual, a lot of our scholarly stuff here from all of the Indo-European cultures. So just a recap in case you're just now listening to this is the first episode you're listening to or something.
Yes.
We also have with us today one of our what is his position?
Yeah.
Internal Relations Officer.
He's the
Glenn.
HR guy.
I'm the one who pretty much just makes everybody play nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my name is Glenn.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Both of you seem to have forgotten already.
I said your name.
I totally missed it.
Yes.
That's because you talked over me.
I apologize.
It's okay. I forgive you. Anyway. So this is the part, Glenn, where we kind of just talk about what's been going on lately. I kind of wanted to, I don't know, where are we starting from? So, I wanted to talk a little bit today about our upcoming festival, Beyond the Gates, hosted by Columbia Grove, located up at Trout Lake Abbey. It's going to be July 7th through 11th. I think we're just doing overnight passes for that, am I right?
We're doing only the whole weekend passes.
The whole weekend pass,
yes.
Right.
So if you only want to spend a night, that's fine. It's the same price. Is that we just don't want coming and going traffic because we want to create this because it is a sacred place. There's both a Buddhist monastery and a Druid sanctuary there. So we just don't want a whole bunch of traffic. But if you just want to spend a night, you are more than welcome to. It is the same price. Right now.
I'll say the great thing about that is if for some reason you change your mind, you can stay the whole weekend.
Exactly. And that right now, all the way up until Lanasa, is $50 for the whole weekend. From actually more than the whole weekend. It's Thursday through Sunday.
Plus the meal plan.
Plus we have a meal plan which is $55, which covers all days except I think one lunch.
So we're gonna be having some really good workshops. We have Phaedra Bonowitz coming to the festival. Phaedra is Isaac Bonowitz's widow. She has been very active for a long time in the pagan community. And which workshop is she presenting again?
She is doing the ritual participation workshop,
Right.
but how to get most out of attaining rituals.
Right.
Not just druid stuff, but all pagan and non-pagan things, stuff like that.
And who else do we have?
Oh, we also have Kirk Thomas who runs. The White Mountain Druid Sanctuary. He's going to be his workshops on King Arthur,
Oh, cool.
about the whole history of whether he was an actual real guy or just some made up. So that's going to be interesting. We also have a few others. I will be presenting an introduction to polytheist devotional work,
Mhm.
and I might be doing a ritual. I don't know just yet. Goes live. Our workshop submissions will already be ended, but we have a couple other ADF people coming up too, so it should be real fun.
Yeah. And there will be vendors.
Mhm.
There will be rituals. I believe Kirk is doing morning devotionals each of those days.
We're in the works. We're in the works with that.
Oh,
that hasn't
oh.
been confirmed, so
Oh, sorry.
you didn't hear that
You
from
didn't hear
us.
that. There will be a unity ritual.
yes, there will be that. And to be quite frank, just being up there it's such a beautiful place. We'll be posting
Yes.
a link to our Facebook that has all the pictures of the place.
Mhm.
Just being up there alone, if you don't attend any workshops or anything, just being up there is worth it alone.
It's a very, very spiritual place. I know my first time up there, I felt like I was walking into a sacred space. It's absolutely beautiful. Kirk has his own standing stone circle, as well as meditation labyrinth.
His labyrinth
and-
also has different shrines to different
And how
deities
many-
there too.
He has so many different shrines. He has a Lu shrine, which is the most important one to me. But I mean, you didn't hear that from me. So we will post a link to the Facebook page as well as the festival page in our show notes. So keep an eye out for that.
And also check out our Grove's new website. That was something that I've been working on lately.
Yes.
Is our Grove's new website, which is columbiaadf.org.
The domain name has not changed.
No, and if you look at the bottom of the page, you will see a link to Beyond the Gates, as well as this podcast and a bunch of other things. So check that out. But other than that, I think I have. What have I been up to? I think.
You went to Beltane in the Grove a couple
Yes,
years ago.
I did. I went to Beltane in the Grove. Myself and a couple other friends of the Grove and members of Columbia were there. It was a fun time. It was nice to take a break and not actually be responsible for anything, so that was fun. I haven't been to a Wicca-like, I don't want to say that Wiccans are not, but kind of ritual for a very, very long time, so it was really enjoyable. We had fire and I got a little rowdy, but hey, that tends to happen.
That's a different story for
That's
another
a different
podcast.
story, yeah.
Beltane in the Grove is I think we mentioned it on prior episodes, but just in case you're just tuning in, Beltane in the Grove is a camping festival that's located here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, it's in Washington at near Klickitat, if you're familiar with that. It's about an hour and 15 minutes away from Portland. But, how about you, Arin? What have you been up to?
Life, the universe, and everything.
42.
Yeah, true, yeah. I haven't been really doing anything too extraordinary, just working on my Grove duties and my podcast.
Perfect. Glenn, anything Grove related you've been up to other than...
I've been up to a lot of things, however, not much of it has been Grove related recently.
Glenn just got a new job, so he's working like 2 jobs right now.
I'm working 4 jobs right now.
Oh, right, because there's the gaming company. What's the 4th one?
I own a photography company.
Oh, right. Okay.
Hey, when are we gonna take those pictures together?
We need to figure that out.
Yes, we need to do. So we have this thing called the Captain in the Cowboy, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, another
I don't think
story
that-
for
yeah, I
another
don't think we should talk
podcast.
about
No, let's not talk about that one.
That's
All right.
a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast. Anyway.
Well, I think it's a good time to get into talking about our main topic today.
Yes, let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this.
Jump on in, Jonathan. Glenn and I will pick up topics to talk to you about as you go.
Or stay completely silent.
Hey, either way.
Or we might just sit here and stare at you awkwardly.
I like that.
All right.
So a couple of things I'd like to mention before I go into this. When I say things like you must do this, or we must do this, or you have to have this, this is in regards to making this what the ritual you are doing an ADF ritual. So if you're missing some parts, then it's not an ADF ritual. It would be considered an ADF-like ritual, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But as groves, you have to do ADF rituals because we are ADF. I mean, that makes sense. So when you hear things as you must do this, yes, if you want an ADF, but if you're doing stuff at home, no, you don't have to do these things. So I just want to clarify that a little bit.
So essentially you're saying there's certain requirements to be considered sanctioned by ADF.
Yes, that's correct.
So there's a basic outline. Those specific things you have to have. You can have extra things, but you cannot cut them out.
Yes, that's true. You can add in as many things as you want to it. You can make it a 50-item ritual, but it needs to have these 18 steps in it.
It's a minimum requirement.
It's a minimum requirement, correct? Because otherwise, this kind of sets us apart, but it's a standardized. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that, actually. The information I'm going to be talking about is on the ADF site. It is under the members-only section, so I might be giving away a little secrets. No, there's no secrets. There's no secrets.
Again, it's $30 if you want to be $30 annually if you want to become a member. It's no real deep, dark secret.
No. And yeah, so if you pay for it, you're technically a druid, but it's all about how you practice, really. It's just to help support the organization. An overview of the Order of Ritual. Ritual binds ADF together. Essentially, we are here to provide a service to the public. That's the initial Isaac Bonowitz's thing. We're coming together to do this ritual. Having a standardized ritual is important. It allows, at least in my opinion, allows a good consistency. You've been to rituals where they're absolutely fantastic to some rituals that are just really awful. But I think what ADF strives for is good ritual. Not bad, not extremely excellent. I mean, yes, you can have extremely excellent. Don't.
Well, I think not just good ritual, but to be able to have familiarity. So for me, I moved from Michigan out here to Oregon. Though I was not a druid in Michigan, I did practice and did enjoy some rituals with the groves out there. Coming out here, I had that familiarity joining Columbia. And so it was a very easy transition for me.
And that is one of the goals. That is exactly, I was actually going to mention that, but thanks. But yeah, that's exactly why it's set up this way. Yeah, so you could go attend like another ritual in Texas and you'll notice that this is ADF. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to relearn anything. So you'll keep a consistency throughout nationwide and even our groves in Germany. Of course, I don't know if you know German or not, but still, you will know what they're doing because it's ADF ritual.
And I'd like to point out, too, just before we get too deep into things, there is a YouTube video that will be linked in our show notes. That's a real quick and dirty core order of ritual is the absolute basics, and she just does a real quick, I invoke Earth Mother, I invoke blah blah blah, and it's like 2 minutes. It's a real quick watch. In case you're interested in just seeing the real down and dirty outline of it.
So, with all this said, how does an ADF ritual work? ADF rituals are modeled after the Indo-European principle of do et des. I give so that you may give. So essentially, we give gifts to the gods, the kindreds, so that they may give gifts back to us. So essentially, you view this as we're throwing a party and we're inviting people over and we're going to be offering them gifts because we want them to come. We are offering them gifts. It's not a bribe. We're offering them gifts because we're showing hospitality. It's all about hospitality and reciprocity. Creating connections with the spirits, creating relationships, thank you, with the spirits. And like we do with friends, we give things to them knowingly and unknowingly, and we expect something in return. It's not one-sided. So that's what our rituals are basically about.
Well, it's no different than you inviting me over to your home.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You open up your home, you offer me drink, food, whatever it may be. You expect, just as a friend, that I return those favors and I be just a good friend back to you.
Right.
And you're going to be nice about it, too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Not necessarily in the same ways, but you have that give and take.
And it's not like, oh, I give you this nice, I give you a beer, so therefore now you're going to give me a car. It's not that kind of a relationship.
Right.
worshippers invite the kindreds to be their guests for a time. This invokes an ancient laws of hospitality, which pretty much dictates that a guest must give a gift in return to the host. And so, you can view that the gods are thus obligated to return the favor. And one thing that makes these ancient laws a little different than today is if you're a greater being, if you're like for instance, let's use a king. If you're a king and you're going to someone's house, you're not going to bring a loaf of bread because you have means to give more. By means of giving more, I mean nothing that breaks the bank. But if I have decent enough money and I'm going to ritual, I could give something better than a stick of incense. So its idea is when you're being a hospitable host, give what you can, not the minimum. Mm-hmm. So in our rituals, we want to give what we can. I don't want to not be cheap about it, essentially. It's like, hey, I want these blessings from you. Here is a pinch of incense when I could buy myself a $50 bottle of whiskey, no problem, not breaking the bank. Mm-hmm. I will offer up some of that whiskey instead. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds kind of dogmatic, but this is kind of the ancient way of thinking of hospitality. That's why a lot of these big rituals were making offerings of these great animals, of these big, swords. I mean, they found swords in lakes or Celtic lands where their warriors would throw their swords as an offering.
It's a topic that Kirk Thomas touches on heavily in his book. The book is called Sacred Gifts.
Sacred Gifts.
Essentially, it's all very much based on the old model of hospitality. I show up at your house, I give you a bottle of wine, you give me a beer, whatever that is. I give you what I can afford, you give me what you can afford. Mm-hmm.
And this is all through the Indo-European term called ghosty, which is guest-host relationship, and we throw that word around. It's actually not a real word. It's a reconstructed word from the Proto-Indo-Europeans. So it's not a real language, but we kind of get the whole guest-host relationship from. Okay, so let's go ahead, and since we cleared that up a little bit, let's go ahead and go to the core order of ritual. There are 18 standard items in the core order of ritual, with some items that can be added. So how I plan to go through this is talk about the function of why we do each step. Normally the placement, but I figure some of you guys could kind of figure out some of the placement, but I'll talk about that. Some techniques and how Colombia does it in our rituals, as well as how the ancients did it as well, and some examples of other people.
Which is why we're breaking this into 2 episodes.
Yeah, this is quite a bit, and this is a good tool for not only senior druids or grove organizers, but those who come to ADF rituals are like, why are we doing this? Mm-hmm. Because our pre-ritual briefings only are like 5 to 8 minutes, and we can't really break it down for you. So I guess let's go ahead and just jump right in.
Before we jump in, is there somewhere online that people can find this and actually look this up?
This is that members only section.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There is a part that talks a little bit about the core order, but there is more in depth. We will be posting a link that has the core order. It will be on our website as well, so there'll be a resource for people to be able to look at it. But the breakdown is in the members only section.
Okay, that makes sense.
We can probably post a link to that section as well for those of you who are members.
Yes. This has come up like you have to be a member. The very first thing with rituals, after you've done the pre-ritual briefing, which I really recommend you do, letting people know what's going on, initiating the rite. Every rite should have a beginning, and a real, not abrupt, but a real clear beginning, so everybody knows what's going on. The fact that we're going to be now going into sacred space, we're going to be leaving all of the crap we're thinking about elsewhere. We're transforming ourselves into places that are holy. So we want to separate that. So there are different ways to do this. This is also a time when all unnecessary talking, joking, and all that kind of stuff needs to stop. And it is really important that when you initiate the rite, that you want to get the message across. So it can't be subtle. Can't be. Again, I highly recommend it not being subtle. Musical signals, bells, drums. Prayer bowls, something that's just really just not what you normally hear is super effective. Like your ears perk up, you're like, huh? Something's happening now.
An unfamiliar sound.
And an unfamiliar sound. It's like, what? We're actually going to do something now. And I think it's one of the important steps, actually. So there's three ways to actually do this, initiating the rite. There's the first, which I mentioned, the musical signal or audible cue, ringing bells and such. The second is an opening prayer, a speech, and addressing the participants and the kindreds, extending a welcome to everybody, like, welcome to our ritual. That could be a initiating the rite. And a third is a processional, which is an organized method of moving people into the ritual space. There are certain ways to do that as well. And the last option is establishing a group mind. And this can be done through a meditation or having people chant together. Now, the techniques of how we could do this. Again, I'm just repeating myself over and over again. The musical symbol is the most common and is the most effective, at least in my opinion. But you can combine these other things together as well. So a bell is common. Taking a staff and banging it on the ground a couple of times is very important. Very common. Shouting, clapping, stomping, that sort of thing. Second technique you could use is the processional. And that is something that gets everybody moving. That gets everyone realizing, okay, now we're going somewhere. Now we're not just only hearing it, now we're actually going somewhere. So I feel that is very, very important.
Can you explain the processional a little bit more in depth?
Sure. Okay. So processionals go back a long time. Now, while we don't have written material so much for the Celts and the Norse, the Romans and the Greeks, their processionals sometimes took a day. It was an all-day event to process around a town, process from one city to another, from one town to another, sometimes up to like 10 to 15 miles. That was seen as being very important because you are doing something different. And they could use chanting, singing. It's just a group activity that everyone's on board and we're all doing the same thing. It's getting people ready for that.
I think something like that, too, was very out of the norm for the time. Travel that distance, especially on foot, is really getting you in that space.
Yeah, the average, I think, was like a couple miles you would leave the town. You wouldn't go far. You're right. You wouldn't go very far. But that was common, but there was only a few instances of that, but I think that those were for the big, big celebrations. So, yes, we think that maybe the Celts and the Norse did that as well as other Indo-European cultures did that as well. It's not like, hey, we're just going to start this. No, we're going to have to go over to that sacred grove. We're going to have to go over to those standing stones, and we're going to do that together. So here's some examples of some things that we do. Now, Colombia does a combination of 3 out of the 4. We have an audible cue, we have an opening statement, and we have a processional. So here's an example of what we do. Here's just like the first part of a ritual. Excuse me. So I'll have a staff and I'll bang on the ground 3 times. Bang, bang, bang. Ancestors, nature spirits, gods and goddesses, kindreds 3. We shall meet you once the gates to the other worlds have been opened and we're standing between the worlds. Children of the earth, welcome to Columbia Grove's whatever ritual. We stand here as one tribe, together to honor the kindreds. And then we'll go ahead and do some other things. And then once those things are done, we'll go ahead and process in. Now, how our ritual space works is we have a leveled area. So we have a parking lot, a ramp down into our ritual space. So we start in the parking lot. We do all this in the parking lot. And we have 2 processional songs that we use. We use one at a time, but depending on which ritual, we have 2 songs that we sing in Arin.
They're chants, actually. So they're repeated as we're walking down. The first of those is Come We Now as a People, and I'm just going to go ahead and let you know how those chants go. Come we now as a people, together at the sacred well. Come we now as a people, together in the warmth and the light of the flame. The second song we use is We Approach the Sacred Grove. We approach the sacred grove with hearts and minds and flesh and bone. Join us now in ancient ways of old, we have come home. You can kind of see how the words in those chants help set the mindset of that processional. We are coming as a people. We're approaching the sacred. We're approaching the flame.
The combination of those three things, the processional, the audible, and a proclamation of we're starting is very important. And this as an experience, as from somebody who leads a ritual, when we start the ritual, everyone's talking, everyone's kind of like getting ready, but then once you start the banging, everyone just like snaps and just like focuses deadly on you. Just like, and then you got their attention, and that's important.
Socializing time is now over. It is now time to commune with.
Yes, what we're here to do. This is what we're going to do now. There's other examples to, if you're doing a Norse ritual, you could start with a musical signal of like using a hammer and strike an anvil 9 times for the 9 realms. And again, you could also do meditations. You could do a quick grounding meditation. So there's a whole bunch of other ways to do things, but generally this is the basic things at least I've noticed ADF rituals have done. Is there anything else to add to that? Or, no? Okay, once that's done, now granted, the order we're doing this is just a template. There is some things that must happen in order, and we'll get to that soon, but all the way up until opening the gates, things don't have to be in specific order. And we'll get to that in the next podcast. So we're just using the generic step-by-step. The next step is purification, and it must take place before we open the gates. Now, purification readies the participants, space, and tools for ritual. There are three ways we can do this: by removing, adding, and marking things. First, it can remove or temporarily suspend undesirables. Now, what do these undesirables mean? What does that mean? Now, there are 2 ways to think about it. There's a newer interpretation and an older one. On one hand, Neo-Pagans tend to point to the negatives. These may be spiritual, as in their counterproductive energies, or psychological, like disruptive thoughts and behaviors. But on the other hand, the ancients thought more in terms of ritual purity. This is a state of attaching a certain grave dislocation of normal life, such as a birth or death. In ADF, we tend towards the neo-pagan interpretations. But in any case, undesirables are things non-conductive to worship. Purification takes away or suspends them so that we can approach the ritual pure and focused.
Now, with that, when you say things that are not productive ritual, what kind of things would that be? What are you talking about there?
Oh, okay. So we'll talk about a little bit about the outdwellers in a little bit after purification. Essentially, you could think of just in terms of even psychological things. Like, I'm having a crappy day, and I'm going to focus on me just having that crappy day. And you can get, and this might sound a little fluffy, but giving off the vibes of being pissed off. That stuff is not good in ritual. Bringing that kind of thought process, this ritual sucks, mine could be better. Those kind of thoughts are very detrimental to ritual, because we're all connected in this hive mind in ritual. So having that kind of thoughts.
The kind of thoughts that would send an empath running screaming.
Exactly. And so purification kind of helps muddle that out.
Okay, so just to kind of reword it here, the way I'm understanding it, would be essentially getting us all in the same mindset, helping us kind of shed all the other things that are not in line with that mindset.
Yes. Thank you. So yes, exactly. Thank you, going on. For the second one is purifications can also add desirable things. Like, for example, the ancients practice of fumigation with fragrance scents, which adds to the purification. Now, the smell was never meant it was the water that purified people. The smell just made people smell good. And of course, when you smell nice things, that also puts you into a different mindset. So we can establish a different mindset. So that's another way you can think of how it makes ritual conductive, is the fact that we are all here doing things together in a way that there's nothing we're removing obstacles out of the way, essentially. And finally, purification can simply mark something special. One of the most universal Indo-European purification practices was drawing a circle around a thing to be purified. Like, for example, the Greeks carried a water jug and basket around the altar and its participants, and that therefore purifying the ritual space. The Slavs did the same thing with a shovel or broom. The Irish had a custom of beating the bounds of their territory. So some way we're also marking something as special. So while we go around and purify something, we're also marking the area to being special. So we're reaffirming it. So it's like, if you don't know this place is sacred enough, now you definitely know it's a sacred place.
We just showed you that it is by doing this thing.
Because, it's one thing to say, okay, we have the audible cue that we're going into it, but like, okay, now we're here, what makes this place special? So subconsciously, like, oh wow, there's different smells here. There's different things going on that they're marking, going around in circles. This is now, we're in it now.
It has been set apart from everyone.
Yes. It's made sacred. Yes.
Sacred.
Sacred is the Latin. It's where we get the word sacred from, so.
Well, then we both stand corrected.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Forgive me. I don't really speak Latin.
Well, it's okay. It's okay. The placement of purification ADF rites, it's pretty unique within the core order, because the place could be anywhere before the gates could be open. So you could do it right after you say, welcome, children of the earth. You could have people walk through smoke. I mean, it doesn't have to be, there's different areas that you could put it in, and that's not necessarily fixed. But it needs to be before the gates are opened. That is important. Now, how the ancients did this, there are a multitude of ways.
Before we move on, because you just brushed over this real quick, I'm not sure if you're going to come back to it. You say that needs to happen before the gates are open. Why?
You're creating a sacred space for the gates to open into.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You're before the gates can open up, before you bring the worlds together into this holy center, this sacred center, you need to have that protection, that purification, that.
So think about it like if you're going to have a party. You're going to clean your house before.
I do.
Well, a normal person would clean. So normal people would clean their house before. So if you think of it in that terms, I know I'm really simplifying it, but it's essentially is we don't want to bring all the crap with us after we open the gates.
Well, that makes a lot of sense then, because we are inviting the kindreds in.
Yes.
So, that's a perfect example.
We're
cleaning that space. We're making that ready for them.
Yes.
But it's not just a normal party. It's a party for the kindreds. You want to make sure that there's enough toilet paper in the bathroom when they show up.
Okay.
Was that a hint? Did I miss something at a party?
Not recently.
Two of the most common methods that the ancients did that we could use today is asperging with water and some sort of fragrance scent. In ancient times, you would have somebody go around with water, or there would be a stationary place where people would dip their hands in water, and they would be, either doused with the sweet-smelling stuff, or they'd walk through the sweet-smelling, burning stuff. But essentially, it's the water that purifies, because water is purity. I mean, you can see water uses purification in a whole bunch of religions here, but it's the water that's important. The smell is the secondary. Is we do something normally with our non-Roman and non-Hellenic rituals is we have two people, one with a bowl of water and one with an incense, and we go around the circle with the water first, and we chant, by the might of the water and the light of the fire, this grove is made whole and holy. And we go around the ritual, around with the people.
Around the circle.
Yes, a few times.
Because we are usually laid out in a circle.
And the circle is not important because
that's purely just how our grove setup works.
Yeah, it's what works with the space. I mean, traditionally, squares and half circles are more common, but circles just happens because our space works that way. So the way we do it is, again, like we do the might of the water, and we usually add something into the water, either salt or something as a purifying thing, and we go around and we fling water on people. As a purifying way, and we have somebody with some incense going around and making everyone smell nice.
Yeah, kind of just wafting the incense at them.
Yeah, and this is very common. I mean, all cultures have some sort of purification thing, so this is not a new concept at all. It's pretty self-explanatory too. So
well, being that, the old Europeans did it, I think that makes it pretty not new.
Yeah, exactly. Since the Romans and the Greeks were really hardcore on purification. With Roman stuff, I know for a fact that there's actually crimes if you go into temples without washing your hands first, because the hands was where you did your work with. That was the most important tool you had was your hands. So you'd wash your hands, which meant you were pure. And there was a little ritual thing they did too, but I'm not going to mention that. So here's some other examples. You could for solitary. Let's say you want your solitary druids out there. Here's an example. You can rub a pinch of salt between the palms, and you could say something of, "Land firm beneath me, my body is as your soil and stone. Grant me strength and health through your bounty. Earth, purify my body." Then you want to go ahead and rinse your hands with water. "Seas that surround me, my thoughts and feelings are as your waves and currents. Grant me your flexibility and wisdom as deep as you are. Sea, purify my emotions and mind." Then you could brush a feather over your face and hands and say, "Sky around and above me, through which I see the stars, sun, and moon. My soul sings as many stars twinkle. May your numbers reflect the wealth of my spirit. Sky, purify my energy." And that's pretty common. I think the most common I've seen was pretty much you had two people standing in the beginning of ritual, and people walked through, two people, one with water and one with incense, and people walk through while they're being censed and dispersed. So that's the most common methods. Do you guys want to add anything before we go to the next?
Do you want to talk? You talked about the outdwellers.
No.
You talked about the psych. Or are you going to get into
I'm
that
going
later?
to the outdwellers.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the outdwellers right now. Let's go ahead and take a music break. So the song we'll be playing tonight is from Jenna Green, "A Chapel of Wood," and we'll be just right back.
Between the hazel leaves, rust the chestnut branches side, the tangle that the woodland weaves forgets the waiting world outside. So let this cave of water green cool all your thoughts by care of rest. Let the sunlight fall between the leaves and grab along your breast. Between the trees, just red eyes,
Hi, I'm the Reverend Kirk Thomas, and you're listening to Part the Mist, a Druid podcast created and hosted by the members of Columbia ADF.
Yeah, might as well. Okay, so the Outdwellers is not part of the cohorter, but it has to do with purification. You can kind of view it as purification. Now, our grove makes offerings to the Outdwellers before purification. Outdwellers are simply the spirits, energies, or emotions that are counterproductive to our ritual. And we do not want to bring those things here with us.
So we already talked about the emotional outdwellers. Outdwellers can also just be, they can be the sprites, they can be the creatures, they can be whatever is out there that has negative intent towards our ritual.
Is it just negative intent, or
no,
intent
it's
necessarily just not necessarily in line with what we're trying to accomplish?
That's the better way of putting it.
Because we're being hospitable hosts, we're not going to go tell them to go away. We're going to make an offering to them.
An appeasement.
It is an appeasement. Like, we'll offer this, you stay away, essentially.
Yeah.
And how we phrase it as something like this. The Outdwellers represents internal and external powers which are counterproductive to this rite. Now is a time to set aside cynicism, doubt, and pettiness, for which we do not want to bring any of that into our ritual this day. Such and such, whoever, go make offerings to the Outdwellers who do not support our ways. So they're simply just beings or energies that are not, like I said, not bad. They're just not really in line with what we're doing. So we make that offering.
We pour beer and we invite them to stay where that beer is and just enjoy that.
Because if they follow the rules of the ancient rules of reciprocity, they would acknowledge that. I mean, we hope that they acknowledge that. So that now our grove usually does that right before we process down into our space. So we do we do the signaling, we announce, children of the earth, welcome to our ritual. Arin, go make offering to the Outdwellers, those who don't support our ways.
Now, with our ritual as well, I mean, at least in the experiences I've been with the grove, before that we usually give an offering to.
So there's a grove. So they call it the Grove Champion, mm-hmm. The Grove Champion or Grove Guardian. Now this is another non-core order item.
Okay.
This is not required.
This is one of those extra things that we
added because we have a warrior group in our grove, and I wanted to make sure that they have some parts in ritual, so we added this other parts. Now, this is a little controversial. I got into a little bit of arguments with this. Because we're making offerings to the Outdwellers, we're also calling on the guardians to watch over those Outdwellers and make sure that they honor the agreement.
The reciprocity.
But you could argue, well, isn't that just being rude because you're making an offering and now you're calling somebody else? I don't think so.
Well, would it not be, and not to belittle whoever the Outdwellers may be for any given ritual, but would it be no different than, let's go back to the party analogy, where we're having an adult gathering, and we give the kids some extra food and some games, and say, hey, you guys go play in this other room.
Perfect.
Us adults are going to do adult things and have our conversation.
But
you're not going to just leave them there by yourselves. You may have a babysitter come and watch them, or someone go and check in on them from time to time to make sure they're not causing any issues.
Brilliant. Yes. Yes, exactly. I could not have said that better myself, actually.
Thank you.
But yes, that's exactly right, because, our rituals are, I like to view our rituals as being pretty powerful, is that you don't want just something to stray in. So we call upon a guardian deity, usually a warrior deity in whatever hearth culture we're doing. So if it's Rome, we're calling on Mars. If it's Celtic, we either call on Lu or the Morrigan, and Norse, I think we call on Thor. And then this is now when we call to them, make offerings to them, we're not necessarily saying like, oh, we only need you this whole time. We're going to take you and put you in the spot. No, we're asking like, hey, sometimes take a look over here and just, can you watch out for us here? And we'll make an offering to you.
You're still welcome to the party.
Yes, you're still welcome. You're not, oh no, you need to stand up in the parking lot, Thor. Yeah, your job is to sit there and watch the kids. You're not allowed.
No, you come be a part of the party. Just you're in charge of checking in on the kids.
Yes. So we make an offering to that. Now that's not from my understanding, Kirk Thomas and Sonora Sunrise kind of came up with that because they had the war, and I kind of took it from Ravens Cry Grove, which they took it from Kirk. So it's not a whole lot of groves actually do this, from my understanding. The way we do ritual, we do it festival style. So instead of me doing all the parts, we give it out to all of our other members. So we want to make sure we also have enough roles and parts for people as well.
It helps create enough roles for all of our members.
And that's not the only reason why we do it, obviously. But it's kind of nice to have not just two parts in ritual.
So to re-clarify, the warrior and the the guardian and outdwellers are not a part of the core order ritual. They're just something that we, for example, use as a part of our purification, in essence.
Yes. So do you have any more things while I move on to our step 3?
I have nothing.
You have nothing. Yes, I love your analogies. That makes it you just answer everything for me. That makes it so much easier. So I appreciate that. So step 3 is actually one of our most important deities. I know that might be a loaded word, but it's very important for us, and it's honoring the Earth Mother. That's step 3. We begin where we are, the Earth. As a neo-pagan religion, ADF is a nature-oriented and Earth-centered. Recognizing the Earth Mother is very important. It also comes from our DNA. That was a big thing. That honoring the Earth Mother was a big thing.
To recollect, our DNA is the Reformed Druids of North America.
Now, some view the Earth Mother as the planet or the spirit of the planet, like in the modern Gaia hypothesis. She is a distinct entity, which may be dressed as the Earth Mother or perhaps as Gaia. Others consider the Earth Mother more of an aspect or role taken on by other deities. For example, in our Celtic rituals, we call on Danu. On our Greek, we call on Gaia. In Roman, we call on Magna Mater for. That's a different story. In our Norse, I don't know what we're calling on in Norse. I think we changed that. But we end up calling upon the Earth Mother based on what hearth culture we call on.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, so I was just going to say, you mentioned sometimes it's a goddess that takes on the aspect of the Earth Mother. Now, I know Gaia, my understanding is Gaia traditionally is the Earth Mother. But, for example, with Danu, for the Celtic tradition, she's actually a river goddess. She's the goddess of the river Danube. But it's believed that the Tuatha De Danann, that name was derived from Danu. So we use her as kind of the mother of the Tuatha De Danann, as the Earth Mother.
Now, from my understanding, is that the ancients, the Paleo-pagans, their idea of the Earth is very different than ours. So this actually Earth Mother concept is newer.
Mm-hmm.
So Gaia was not the Earth. She was a type. She was a primordial deity. They view the Earth differently than us. So the honoring Earth Mother is a new concept. But we'll get into that in a second.
The question I have about this is how important is it or not important when we're honoring the Earth Mother to utilize a deity or a spiritual entity versus just the concept of our Earth as a whole, spirituality separate from that? Is that something that is important to have as part of this core order?
I could answer that in 2 parts. I think when we're doing a ritual with a certain hearth culture, I think it keeps in the spirit of the hearth culture. But generally speaking, you could just honor the Earth Mother, and I think that is very important.
And that would be acceptable along ADF.
Yeah. I mean, let's say we're doing
I guess that's my question. It's not necessarily what it would be. Necessarily keeping in line with whatever culture we are.
You don't have to,
but along with what is important to ADF, since we're talking about what is
needs
to be an ADF ritual.
Yes, as long as the Earth Mother is being honored, that's the important. Doesn't matter if you call her Danu or just the Earth Mother. That's important.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
Yes. But, in addition to all this, there are sovereignty aspects, and this is where Colombia comes in. Now, when we do our rituals, we honor the hearth culture Earth Mother. So if we're doing Celtic, we do Danu. But we also have a sovereignty deity, Colombia.
Who you remember is who we invoked at the beginning of our last ritual, our last podcast.
Yeah. And she's a sovereignty. So for us, she's of this land.
Mhm.
When we make offerings to the Earth Mother, we also have a Columbia song. Hey, Arin, do you mind doing the Columbia song?
I guess. So our Columbia song is actually just an adaptation. You may know the song "The River Is Flowing." We are currently using that song and just replaced the river with Columbia. I am working on writing a new song for Columbia, but that's very much in the workings. So the Columbia song. Columbia is flowing, flowing and growing. Columbia is flowing down to the sea. Mother, carry me, your child I will always be. Mother, carry me down to the sea.
Excellent. I'm going to just go back and clarify some of the ancient, because we're talking about the Earth Mother in ancient times. It is a very much a common type of Indo-European thing. I mean, it's, you could see it everywhere, essentially. There's specific cults, for instance, to the Earth Mother. But, again, they didn't view the Earth as the whole Earth because of their concept of what their Earth, their idea of their place in the universe.
Their understanding.
Yes, their understanding of the fact that Earth is not the center of the universe, essentially.
Right.
We view it differently now. And there's so many different ways to honor the Earth Mother. There's so many different invocations. I'm looking at the website of all the invocations for the Earth Mother. There's so many of them. It's essentially an invocation to, like I said, Earth Mother. So you could come up with your own. And I always view that it's always better to come up with your own invocation, putting your own energy into it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not saying that coming off the website is a bad idea. No, if you're a beginner, that's a great thing to do.
Well, I think anything in ritual, I mean, when it's personal and it's yours, I mean, you're that much more connected to everything that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's also another concept, and here's opinion. This is my opinion. There's also something called the Sky Father. So if you're using the duality of gender here, if you're using the Sky Father and the Earth Mother, which is also another Indo-European motif. Look at Zeus. Look at Tyrannus. Look at Jupiter. Those are Sky Fathers, right? So sometimes people call upon the Earth Mother and the Sky Father. Now, the Sky Father is not as common as just doing it, because you have to do the Earth Mother, but you don't have to do call upon the Sky Father. But some people try to do it for the balancing of the two. I personally don't think it's necessary to do that. But you go ahead and call upon a Sky Father as well.
But if having that duality and that balance is important to you, you can absolutely have that.
Of course.
Though ADF does not require it.
No. If you feel like it's missing and you need some just some of that Sky Father power in your ritual, then yes, you could call upon that. That just sounds horrible.
So have we talked about why the Earth Mother is a necessary part of the core order?
Because without the Earth,
yes,
the
it's
Earth
really
Mother
yes.
would be floating in space and probably exploding.
No, well, the idea is that we're bringing this religion from essentially. Okay, so the way I view it, and I'm not speaking on the behalf of ADF, is we're here on Earth, and however you view the Earth Mother, that's the most tangible for us. The fact that it's not some obscure concept here. So I think that's why it's important, because we could recognize it.
When everything we have
is here,
comes from the Earth.
So you figure, even the Earth Mother. So I think that's why. I mean, I'm not 100% sure on this, but it's the most tangible. Versus
that would make absolute sense to me.
And we invite your comments and criticisms. Let's go ahead and shoot those to ptmpod, @gmail.com.
Yes, please correct us if we're wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong on this. This is just my interpretation of it.
This is all on him.
I'm just going along with it.
Yeah, blame me. Yeah. So the Earth Mother is important. If anything else, the Earth Mother, honoring the Earth Mother, is one of the more important deities of the ritual. So we have anything else to like to add about the Earth Mother? I mean, I go on and on, but I think that's pretty much the basics of.
Just a personal opinion: the Earth is awesome. Take care of her, please.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. All right. Now we're on to step 4. Statement of purpose. Okay, so every rite should have a clear intent.
Why are we here?
Yeah, why are we doing this? Even if it's a simple, like,
I'm in this
devotional.
room with all you people. What's going on?
Exactly. The statement of purpose is a time to formally make the intentions known.
Now, who are we making those intentions known to?
Exactly. Who are we? Yes, exactly. Like, we're gonna have a party, right? So why are we at this party? What's going on? Are we having a birthday party? Hey guys, I'm gonna schedule this party. I want to let you know why we're having this party. Why are we here today? And at least 3 topics may be covered in this, like the rite's nature, the purpose, and the precedent. Are we doing a unity rite? Are we doing a spring equinox rite? I mean,
doing a party right.
Exactly. Are we going to do?
Is that a thing?
Yes, that's what Lunasa is.
Oh, that makes sense.
So it's like eventually I'd like the Grove to do. I have this side note. I have this Star Trek ritual, a fun ritual that I'm planning on doing eventually. That should be fun. But luckily I'll announce that. I'm not going to announce that as a full blown. It's an ADF-like ritual because it doesn't have all the components. But I'm not going to announce this as like, yes, this is a great, spiritual ritual. Oh, it's a Star Trek ritual. What the hell?
Surprise!
Surprise!
Where are your pointy ears?
So the statement of purpose it comes after the first ritual action. So usually right after the Earth Mother. You want before we start getting down to business in our main ritual, recreating the cosmos and such. We really should talk about why we're doing this. And the statement of purpose has to be verbal. I don't use pictures. I don't. I'm reading this. It's like,
okay, you're saying this, and I feel like there's a reason.
I'm reading this and goes. As one expects, the statement of purpose is always verbal. So somebody had an experience of this.
So we can't use a PowerPoint?
No, I don't think you should use PowerPoint. So obviously something happened that they have to. It's like, do not iron your clothes while wearing. So somebody did that. So
this is being said because somebody did it wrong.
Well, not
yet. Necessarily wrong.
Inefficiently.
In a way that was not necessarily agreed
Interpretive dance is not an appropriate way to do the statement of purpose.
And I highly recommend, if you're doing all this improv, I highly recommend writing out, if you don't have any piece written in a ritual, have your statement of purpose concise and written out. So you could set the intentions. If you're all about intentions, this is the intentions part of your ritual. This is where you set the things into motions. And you set that mindset of your group mind. Lunasa. I'm not going to use Lunasa. I'm going to use Beltane, or last Beltane. Beltane was a fun ritual. We're honoring the she. We're doing all these fun things. So you're setting that mindset of, we're going to go have fun now.
Mm-hmm.
Roman ancestor ritual, I'm setting this in like, we are going to be honoring the ancestors and removing inner demons. There's a difference. So it's good to set.
A little bit.
You want to set that. So having it written down is highly recommended. I'm giving thumbs up so you guys could see that. So ancient times. Okay. I'm going to make a bet that our ancestors had a statement of purpose when they did their cult honorings. I'm pretty sure they let everyone like, hey, we're honoring such and such festival now. I'm pretty sure that happened.
Now, just out of curiosity, you're saying you're pretty sure that happened. Is that something if we know occurred during the ritual, or if it was something that people knew what this was going to be going into it ahead of time? Let
me clarify. I know that the Romans and Greeks did it because they wrote down everything. So pretty much, I can know for a fact that the Romans and Greeks did things because they wrote down. They loved to write about themselves. They documented everything. I can't speak for the Celts and the Norse.
I can't imagine that there would not be some bard out there in Ireland going, yeah, I don't want to talk about why we're doing this.
It's a secret.
He's a bard. Of course he wants to talk about what he's doing.
So here it says here, and it goes, but in many cases, the purpose may have gone unstated. The ancient Irish may not have needed to state the purpose of Samhain, just as modern Native American families did not need to state the purpose of Thanksgiving. So it might have already, but here's the difference. Here's where I make the exception to this. We don't live our religion like the ancients did. Our secular life is separate from our religious life. When we go to work, it's not a religious thing. When the Romans worked, there was religious connotations on everything.
Well, I think not just that, but just our culture and our society is not religious-centric.
Yes.
Like a lot of the ancients were. So, whereas at the time, everybody, at least in your neighborhood, you all did the same things. here we all have our own things. We have our different ways of doing things. So when we come together, it's important to make that statement and to make sure everybody, including the deities, want to know why they're invited and what our purpose is.
Also, we call this practicing Neo-Paganism. You ask somebody who's Irish, are you doing Irish paganism? No, they're like, I'm Irish. So there's no clear separation of their life, like you said. There's no
right.
So yes, I actually I do agree with this. We don't have to explain Thanksgiving. We all know Thanksgiving for the most part. You explain it to the kids, but once you've done it so many times, I don't have to explain why we're doing Thanksgiving.
Our entire culture understands
that. Yes, exactly. And so here, let me give an example of some of our opening statements to some of our rituals. So do you guys have anything else really to add before I'm looking right now. I'm sorry, I was not prepared for that because I kind of added that in.
No.
No?
Dead air. While we're waiting for you to
I'll give two examples here. I'll give a Beltane and a Roman one. So get Beltane. So here's a couple of examples of statements of purpose that Columbia Grove has done. This one is, and you can hear the difference. So this one I'm going to read is our welcoming the mighty dead, which is our ancestor ritual. On this highest of days, we come together to remember and celebrate those who have long passed, those who have died, known and unknown, ancestors, connected by blood and by heart. But there are more than ancestors at our side this night. There are strangers, creatures that lurk within the misty veil. We come together on this sacred night and pray to the ancestors that they will aid us in dispelling these creatures, aid us in recognizing the ways they distort our souls and cause us turmoil. May the ancestors aid us in removing these demons from our lives so that we once again be whole. That's the ancestors. Now we got the Beltane. We have come here today to celebrate Beltane and honor Anye, the nature goddess of romance and our fairy queen. And would you
like me to read it?
Hey, Arin, would you like to read the Beltane one?
We have come here today to celebrate Beltane.
My turn.
3, 2, 1. We have come here today to celebrate Beltane and to honor Anye, the nature goddess of romance and our fairy queen, and to forge a deeper alliance with the Sidhe, or the fairy folk, and the spirits of the land. It is now when the veils are thinnest and the curious fairy folk are very near. Returning from their winter respite, the noble ones, gentle, sensitive folk, most of whom we are willing to connect with us if we but treat them with the kindness and respect they deserve, and approach them with an open heart. Today we will offer up a woven tapestry of joy and love at our maypole to all those hidden folk who balance the worlds.
So there's a big difference between the two. So sending that intention also sets in with the purification, with the initiating the rite. This is all building up. Now you got build up of more. So you have the initiating the rite, you have the purification, and now you have the statement of intention. So you're building this up. So, okay, we all now obviously know why we're here completely now. But I think other than that, I think that's pretty much covers statement of purpose. Did you guys have anything else to add to statement of purpose?
I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I think so.
And the title is fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think so. Now the next one, it gets really important. I mean, they're all really, but this is when the magic really starts to happen. It's recreating the cosmos. So there's some musts-have. Now this is where the musts. This is what sets ADF rituals apart from other rituals. Here are the recreating the cosmos. Sacred center must be established in a triadic cosmos, or a three-cosmos system. The three worlds, or three realms, must be acknowledged. The fire must be included. The sacred center is the most commonly represented as fire, well, and tree.
Now, you say most commonly.
Yes.
Are there other options that are available for people?
Fire, fire, fire. Roman rituals traditionally are fire, 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 fire.
Okay.
But yeah, so it needs to have three, but fire has to be, there has to be an element of fire. Celtic is more of the well. Well is, well, I mean, there are other cultures that use holes, literally dug in holes in the ground, but well is more of an Irish or Celtic symbol.
Yeah, wells were a very spiritual place. They still are a very spiritual place in Ireland. but versus, and Norse is very much the tree. It's very much Yggdrasil.
Mm-hmm. So here we go. We start off with, this is where we start raising power. This is where we start raising the power before we open the gates. This is done by finding our place in the cosmos. And where are we? So by recreating the cosmos, we are literally recreating how the universe was created, at least in the Indo-European mindset. And by finding the sacred center, and that is very important. But let's be clear about their function. When we link ourselves to the cosmos in the center, we plug into a vast web of power where we could gain ground, orientation, and support for worship. So let's look at this. Let's look at this concept real quick. So first there's the cosmos, the universe as we know it. The Indo-Europeans viewed the cosmos as usually in threes. So that's what we use. You got each hearth culture has its own variations of cosmic structure, but most fit into two basic patterns. The first pattern is that we call the three worlds: the land, sea, and sky. You also have the three realms: the upper world, the mid world, and the underworld. This kind of pattern is also called the vertical axis. You have different myths kind of saying who rules what. But essentially, if you use like what's that mathematical with the X and Y?
Latitude and longitude?
No, the X and Y graph. So if you look at an X and Y graph where you have X and Y, so you look at the three worlds as the horizontal, and you look at the three worlds as the horizontal, and the three realms as the vertical. And then right where they both meet is the sacred center. Now, the sacred center is rather more of a mystical concept. It is a point of power which other points in the cosmos are accessible. This point is associated with the center of axis of the worlds. Like, for instance, Zeus set two eagles flying from either edge of the earth, and they met at the center marked by the ombelus, or world navel. I probably mispronounced that. I apologize. The Norse, with the tree.
Yggdrasil, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This whole concept is very important. The sacred center is the most commonly formed by hollowing or making sacred the well, fire, and tree, which we call the three gates. So the three gates are connected. I know this gets a little confusing sometimes, because unless you can actually see it written out. So you have the three realms, three worlds. The three worlds is more, I think, in my opinion, is more of a Celtic concept. I know that three worlds is pretty universal in Indo-European cultures. So you have the fire, which we have the object of fire, which is a connector to the upper world, the upper realm. You got the well, which is connector to the underworld. You have the tree, which is connected to where we are here in the mid-world and connects all of them. It's the crossroads. It's the connector of all the worlds. So you have that connected vertical, and then you have the worlds connect the worlds? The worlds, I'm sorry. The worlds connecting horizontal. And so there's a lot going on here in different cultures. I mean, you could make it subject of just the recreating the cosmos. So think of them as portals. They are portals. The well-fire and tree are portals that are activated so that we can walk between the worlds.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the very condensed
yes.
version of it. The well, the fire, and the tree open the portals to the overworld, the midworld, and the underworld, creating the sacred space.
Yes. So, as you notice, we don't cast circles. This is where we start departing from other neo-pagan traditions. Is that we are, by reestablishing the sacred center, by reestablishing the cosmos, and working between the worlds, that is where we do our work. And there's a couple ways to do this. I mean, there's many ways to do this. But before I get to that, I'm kind of jumping ahead. Forgive me here. If you look at how the ancients viewed it, the fire was, we could see primarily the fire was the most important. You would feed the gods through the fire. You put offerings into the fire, and once it morphs that food, fumes, that stuff travels, smoke travels up to the gods, and it feeds the gods.
Yes.
the well, which is connected to the ancestors, or the mundus, which is a dug and hole.
And the Celts believed too that if you gave a message to the gods in the well, it would be taken to the gods.
Yes, and the tree, the axis mundi, the connector of all the world, the center of the world, is very common in all harsh cultures.
Yeah.
That's and if you've done the tree meditation, it's pretty much the same kind of concept as well. When you do the leaves reach up to the upper world and the roots go down, same kind of concept.
Yes.
Now there's a couple ways that Colombia does this. We recognize in certain rituals, we'll use Lanasa as an example. We'll use a Celtic ritual, an Irish Celtic ritual. So first we establish the three worlds, land, sea, and sky. There's a couple of ways to do this. There's the more theatrical way, and then there's a solo way you could do this. And forgive me, my singing is horrible.
I can do the solo. I have it here.
You have it there?
You're talking about this one, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Go ahead and do that.
The waters support and surround us, the land extends about us, the sky stretches above us, at the center burns a living flame. May all the kindreds bless us, may our worship be true, may our actions be just, may our love be pure. Blessings and honor and worship to the holy ones.
So once that's done, once we establish, now we've established land, sea, and sky. There's another method we do, but that requires a couple more people.
Yeah.
That one's a little harder to do. But once that's done, we now are ready to hollow the three portals. Our well, which is a cast iron well, our fire, which is a nice sized fire pit, and a tree, which is we have a 8-foot railroad tie. What is it? Railroad tie? Railroad tie with the symbols of the three worlds on it. And we do it by singing the portal song.
I'm not going to sing the whole portal song because it's the only long song that we actually have in our rituals. I'm going to go ahead and sing the refrain. And the verses, there's a verse for the well where we purify the well. There's a verse for the fire, we purify the fire.
Take that back. We're not purifying. We're
purifying.
So let's start again. We're not purifying. We're not purifying. We are hollowing. We're making it sacred. Yes. Yeah.
So there's a verse for the well where we hollow the well. There's a verse where we hollow the fire. And there's a verse where we hollow the tree. So we sing the refrain, then we sing a verse, and we sing the refrain. I'm going to go ahead and sing the refrain for you guys. By fire and by water, between the earth and sky, we stand like the world tree rooted deep, crowned high.
So we go ahead and and this is where we have everybody singing during ritual that part.
They will sing the refrain, correct.
And this is again keeping the hive mind, because once you establish the hive mind, you also need hive mind. Hello, sorry.
I'm just thinking of the other portal song.
Oh, yeah. This is let's not go there. 3, 2, 1. So once we've sung the portal song, we're also having everyone sing the refrain. Because once you establish the group mind, you have to maintain it. And one way is getting people to sing together. And that is what we're doing. We're having people sing that. We're constantly keeping people engaged.
Singing and chanting.
Yeah, so at least in Colombia rituals, we're not having people witnessing our rituals. This is full-on participation with everybody.
Yes.
So we're singing, we're moving, we're doing things. And this is, again, my opinion. I don't like going to ritual and witnessing other people doing things for themselves, and I'm just happening to be there. That's not... To me, that's
You're
not...
watching a ritual,
I'm watching,
not participating.
And that's not really a reciprocal thing here. I'm not getting blessings if I'm having other people do it, and I'm not being a part of it. Because if I want blessings, I need to put something of myself into it, too.
At that point, you may as well watch a ritual on TV.
Exactly. So with this, there are multitudes of ways to do it. You don't have to sing. You could do, for instance, in our Roman ritual, we don't sing. We have very little singing because... Singing, like these songs, are really happy and they're really...
Well, we could sing them dirgy, but there's no fun in that.
There's the dirge version of it is like, come we now to the well. It's like, why not? So instead... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think the only songs we sing for the ancestor ritual are Processional and, of course, our Columbia song. It's always our prayer to Columbia.
So one way to do it, if you don't like singing... Now, if you're in a grove, if you're a leader of a grove or you're solitary, you don't have to sing.
Nope.
Singing is if you want to sing. It's not a mandatory. ADF sings a lot, but
if you're like me, you can sing the entire ritual.
Yes, and there is actually there's somebody who wrote the whole ritual as a song that you could sing.
I have to look that up.
So if you don't like singing, how else will you recreate the cosmos? And that is through using words instead of song, obviously.
Yeah.
No visual cues. So you go up to the fire, let's say. O sacred fire that consumes and transforms, true and holy light of the gods and goddess, be blessed by our offerings, O sacred and sacrificer. Let your holy flame warm our spirits and our lives. We offer oil to the fire. Sacred fire, burn within us. And we all say that. So we're going to have Arin read the tree, because apparently after the takes, I couldn't read the invocation to the tree. So go ahead.
O sacred pillar, boundary of all worlds, stand at the center of the sky, stand at the center of the sea, stand at the center of the land on which we dwell. Let us be deepened in your depths, raised to your heights, and strengthened in your strength. Sacred tree, grow within us.
And then we make making an offering to each of these portals or these gates or these hollows we're turning these mundane objects into sacred objects, as in portals, to travel to these different parts, to the upper world, to the underworld. And that's important. We're setting these things aside sacred from their mundane. These objects should never be used in mundane things. These are sacred items that should, at least in my opinion, be set aside. So we're reestablishing the fact that these are sacred items.
And the offerings are helping to make them sacred.
Yes. So you guys, that's pretty much recreating the cosmos. I know this subject could go. I mean, this topic is really deep. And you could put a whole show on the cosmos and the theology behind it, and why are we walking between the worlds, and how one must do it, and all these things, and that's really complex. And quite frankly, I don't know all the answers to this. Every grove does it very differently. Every intention is very different. Even though we're walking between the worlds, you have to also remember the intention behind this. Why are we doing this? Why are we inviting these deities, the kindreds, and our deity of the occasion?
What is our purpose?
Why are we doing it? So that also changes how we recreate the cosmos. This fun song, the portal song, is because we're going to have a party. This is a celebration. The ancestor one? No. We need to be much more careful about how we create the cosmos, because we're going to be doing some dark things and some very serious things. So we need to be careful how we do this and keep that intention so that everybody keeps that whole mindset. So it's kind of like keeping a Jedi battle meditation. You have to keep that mindset going. It sets the mood, it sets the tone. Do you guys have anything to add with that? So I think that being said, I think we're going to stop here, because opening the gates will be next, and after that, a bunch of other things, and that takes a while to explain. So yeah, there was a lot of me talking within this, and again, I'm not 100% right on everything. As you know, people have corrected me in the past. I am just a guy trying to get through the ADF stuff, so if I said things that were incorrect, please email us, and I will fully recognize my mistakes and correct that.
ptmpod@gmail.com.
Yes.
And it's great, too, because none of us have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing from other people and being corrected, and it's a learning process for everyone.
Absolutely.
It is. Everyone, I'm pretty sure, I'm making a blanketed statement, I'm pretty sure everyone is still learning things. You can learn new methods, new ideas, some UPG, unverified personal gnosis might throw in there a little bit. And things will constantly change. But these three things with the recreating the cosmos are these, the well, fire, and tree. Sanctifying those are the most important, even more so than land, sea, and sky. You do not need to do land, sea, and sky. Just the well, fire, and tree are what you must do for ADF rituals to open those portals before we call upon a gatekeeper, which will be the next episode.
So we are going to take a moment. Glenn's got to head out and catch his bus. So we're going to take a moment to say goodbye to Glenn.
It was great being here. Lots of fun. Hopefully I can do this again.
Yes, please do come back.
Yes.
Well, it's your house. I'll be back.
Oh. I have no comment about this. awkward laugh. Oh, kill me. So thank you, Glenn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Like I said, I really appreciate it.
Maybe next episode, next month.
We can try to make that happen.
Cool, let's do that. All right, thanks, Glenn. We're going to jump into our events.
Yeah.
Or not our events, the events for the Pacific Northwest region.
Yes, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to announce everybody else's events, and Jonathan will announce our events because it's easier for him.
Yes, I could enunciate and read our events.
Yes. So on June 5th at 1 p.m. is the World Fish Migration Day and Blessing. It's going to be a blessing for the fish that are migrating. It's located at the Scappoose Bay Paddling Center. And I did not get a state. I think that's
it's Oregon.
In Oregon.
It's in Oregon.
June 11th at 11 a.m. is the Portland Midsummer Scandinavian Festival, located at the Oaks Amusement Park. June 23rd through 26th is Sunfest, a Fool's Journey. The location is Vernonia, Oregon, and there's a $90 registration fee, and that is a festival, obviously. And June 25th, there will be a Meet the Goddess Brigid class with an accompanying summer solstice ritual. There is a $10 suggested donation, and that's going to be located at If the Broom Fits in Portland, Oregon. Tigard, Oregon, rather.
On June 26th at 3:30, you have our Norse Midsummer Ritual by Columbia Grove, and it will be held at West Hills Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Portland. See our website, columbiaadf.org, for more information on that. And on July 7th and 10th is Beyond the Gates Festival at Trout Lake Abbey. Entry fee is $50 for the Thursday through Sunday with a $55 optional meal plan. It's a huge festival with a lot of great workshops and great lineups with some great people. We hope we see you there. Tickets available online, and you can view that at our website as well.
And we'll have links in the show notes, like always. July 9th, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., Summertide's afternoon of Sun, Sand, Surf, and Psychics. It's a psychic fair. There's a $2 entry fee. There will be vendors, psychics, healers, and food. And I did not get
that is at If the Broom Fits.
Okay, I thought so. And July 14th through 17th is the Eight Winds Festival at the Prosser Reservoir in Truckee, California. Entry is $40, and it's a ADF Northwest Festival. Link in the show notes. And July 30th through 31st is the second annual Wild Woman Campout. That's a $111 registration fee, and the location is, Finian Sacred Land in Vernonia, Oregon. We also have some fan mail today. This is the part of the podcast where I do all the talking. So let me, cool, you got it for me.
Technology is fantastic.
So we have actually a couple fan mail today. The first is from Peter. He says, "Hi, folks. I wanted to thank you for starting Part the Myths. I've now listened to the 3 available episodes and thoroughly enjoyed them." We received this back on April 18th, if you're wondering why there were only 3 episodes. I like the recap from Equinox. You might consider in the future sharing a bit of the script outline in the show notes for any future recaps, which you notice we did do on our last bonus episode. He says, I've been a member of ADF since 2009, and I was starting on my Dedekind Path documentation in fall of 2010. I have notes that show I had scheduled out my DP work starting about 2 days before my first child was born. Unsurprisingly, that's the last thing I updated. Fast forward to 2016. My wife, lifelong agnostic, suggested we look at the local UU church because my daughter is thriving in the community around her Lutheran school, and neither of us... cut that part out. And seeing your podcast on one of the few ADF mailing lists I'm still a member of, I'm back on the wagon and starting to plan out how to complete my documentation by around this time next year. Yay, synchronicity. Anyway, that's a very long-winded way of saying thank you for the podcast, Peter. Peter, we are so happy to be able to provide that for you. We're so happy that we gave you that opportunity to get back into it. He had a couple of other questions. We got back to him on his email about that.
Yes, thank you, Peter.
Thank you. And we heard back from John the Verbose in Minneapolis, Minnesota. For the sake of time, John, I'm going to cut your email down. He says, I wrote in to add my perspective in making an offering during ritual. In the episode on ritual etiquette, Jonathan indicated it is poor form, in his opinion, to scrounge up an offering at the site of the ritual before it begins. As a ceremonial druid, I understand this concept, and I acknowledge the validity of Jonathan's opinion. However, I provisionally and respectfully disagree. I think it could be an acceptable practice if there is some sort of exchange. For example, if you are picking a flower, are we asking it permission first? If we pick up a pine cone, are we offering back our life energy in return? He goes on a little bit. I kind of think that falls in line with what we were talking about on our last episode on what Ember mentioned on our last episode on intent. So thank you for writing that in, John.
Let me respond to that. Yes, I agree. I don't think I was very clear, and that's on my bad. That's my fault. I think what I was trying to say is, if let's say you go to ritual and you didn't bring anything, you're like, oh, flower, here. No intentions, no thought, just like, I'm just going to offer this. I know not very many people do that, but I've seen that happen. But yes, I completely agree with you on that. So, thank you.
Thank you. John wraps up his email. Also, shout out to Jake of Dancing Waters Protogrove, who wrote in previously. He runs a great ADF ritual. I've attended 2 of his public rituals, which have inspired me to take a closer look at ADF. So, shout out Jake. Thanks for representing ADF. And that's it. That's it from John the Verbose.
Yes, thank you, John. Not John. Yes,
yeah,
John.
John.
Yes, from John
There's
to John.
John and
John.
Jake.
John and Jake. And Peter.
Yes. And finally, we'd like to give a shout out of thanks to Druidcast, The Wigglian Way, and Pagan FM for airing our promos. We really appreciate it. For those of you that have found us through those podcasts, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Yes, and I think that pretty much wraps it up. This is a little bit of a longer one. These informational ones do last longer than some of our other highlighted ones, but that's expected. There's just so much information.
So much, yeah.
But we do appreciate you listening to us, and if you have any comments, feedbacks, or anything like that, please let us know, and we will get back to you.
For the last time, email us at ptmpod@gmail.com. You can check out our website, that's ptmpod.libsyn.com, and check us out on iTunes and Stitcher. Look us up, review us, rate us. We really appreciate hearing back from you. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate your reviews. Plus, as always, reviews really help us get out there so other people can find us as well.
Yes, please review us.
And check out our fan page on Facebook as well.
One little thing that I've been so happy with before we leave, we've had 1,400 downloads since the beginning. We're getting 600 downloads a month, essentially.
Yeah.
At least this month has been like 680. So thank you again. Thank you so
everyone.
much.
We couldn't do this without you guys. I mean, what would be the point?
Exactly. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and just wrap it up. And so
we'll do a quick farewell to our ancestors, and we'll see you at our next ritual. To the ancestors of our hearth, of our home, to the ancestors of our blood, and the ancestors of our spirits, thank you for attending this podcast today. Ancestors, we thank you.
Ancestors, we thank you.
Sunset, moonrise, and see how the land is bathed in silver hue. You feel so lonely. Come with me and let me show there are others just like you, who feel the powers of earth, sea and sky, of dragon and fairy and shades of the night. Hear the call of our ancestors of blood and bone, of womb and tomb and standing stone. Lady, stir your cauldron well, chant your words and sing your spell. Deep within this darkened hall, hear the goddess Ceridwen call. See a man alone on a hill, his arms raised high to the moon, chanting words, a charm, a spell of power, a witch's rune. He calls to the powers of earth, sea and sky, of dragon and fairy and shades of the night. He calls to his ancestors of blood and bone, of womb and tomb and standing stone. Lady, stir your cauldron well, chant your words and sing your spell. Deep within this darkened hall, hear the goddess Ceridwen call. Come and taste of the cauldron's brew and magic she will give to you. You will dance in the eye of the storm, your Ceridwen's children, the cauldron born. A charm of silver, the gypsy said when he was just 17. Your future I'll tell you, every thread and turn, if there to be seen. She took his hands, tracing the lines, searching for patterns and looking for signs. Your life a construction, one day you will see. Through the illusion and into the dream. Lady, stir your cauldron well, chant your words and sing your spell. Deep within this darkened hall, hear the goddess Ceridwen call. Come and taste of the cauldron's brew and magic she will give to you. You will dance in the eye of the storm, your Ceridwen's children, the cauldron born. So we stand on this hill, our shadows are cast by the moon, chanting words, our charm, our spell of power, our witch's rune. We call to the powers of earth, sea and sky, of dragon and fairy and shades of the night. We call to our ancestors of blood and bone, of womb and tomb and standing stone. Lady, stir your cauldron well, chant your words and sing your spell. Deep within this this darkened hall, hear the goddess Ceridwen call. Come and taste of the cauldron's brew and magic she will give to you. You will dance in the eye of the storm, your Ceridwen's children, the cauldron born. Oh lady, stir your cauldron well, chant your words and sing your spell. Deep within this darkened hall, hear the goddess Ceridwen call. Come and taste of the cauldron's brew and magic she will give to you. You will dance in the eye of the storm, your Ceridwen's children, the cauldron born. You're the cauldron born.